understood was that his speech was almost over, but my presence reignited him back to square zero. And I'm happy we are meeting here today. But let me assure you, I'm not here on any political platform. I'm here driven out of concern and care for Nigeria. And that also does not mean that scratching at yesterday from misinformation, packages of propaganda that subjected me to persecution cannot be scratched. I love it whenever it is scratched deeper so that people can understand. Mr. President, before I start, let me first apologize. I was in another program at Transcorp, and I had to conclude and rush here. I apologize for all of us coming late. Mr. President, protocol was established before I came here. So most humbly, I want to say I'm standing on the well-laid protocol so established before our arrival. And I also thank you, comrades, for giving me the opportunity, no matter how short it might be, to share our thoughts at this time in Nigeria's history with you today. At the beginning, every Nigerian, particularly elites and special case, is the label. You must dissect the history that brought Nigeria to where we are. And let me start it this way. With the discovery of oil, and with the restructuring of a body outside Nigeria by some foreign interest, ideas were put forward, and Nigeria became the main target. There were issues that were brought to the fore that the media took. But there were so much that people are not aware. And what people are not aware is what I'm going to talk about. Whether it is considered friendly or it is considered painful, the country I have is Nigeria. Speaking the truth to my brothers and sisters in Nigeria is part of worship. When people understand themselves, when mutual suspicion is forced to give way, when facts and truth govern what people do and say, when lies give way, and when light beams on the patches of obstacles deliberately created by man, then that environment becomes safe for mankind to dwell therein. In 1972, it was agreed that Nigeria should not, under any guise, be allowed to grow. I said this yesterday. Many leaders called me until they found these secret documents. And I'm going to talk in this direction, culminating to the games going on even now. And I am concerned talking now simply because we are inching into another phase of a program that will face this country in a hard way. And take her who is also a Nigerian, who is also a father who has children who care for the well-being of this country. I know I was part of some military governments yesterday, but one may ask, at what capacity? What was my age? Were the allegations laid on me true? I went through persecution, met 15 judges, set aside. Those who persecuted me and called me names on pages of newspapers are ashamed to look at me. They cannot shake hands with me. They are elder members of elder states. If the case were to be in reversal order, no, it won't be different. But I was painted the way I was painted. So my destiny is to go through that path, and I'm happy. God Almighty has designed it for me to be cooked that way. I am who I am. I am who I was when I served And that's why whenever you see a literature, look at the other side of the coin. Who is the person you are talking about? The me that you see is the me that was. What we have done to labor, you don't know because we don't come to the pages of newspapers to talk. But time and events will tell. If the reverse of who I was what you have heard and what you commented upon, then that's another thing. I wouldn't even be here, alive to start with. But I'm here, my destiny is still kicking. God bless Nigeria. In the 70s, it was agreed this country of ours should not grow. What happened in the 70s? The discovery of oil and gas. I will be very brief, deliberately, to be able to deliver the messages I want to deliver. Tire production, textile industries, and paper mills were the pride of Nigeria, generating revenue, job opportunities, competing with any elsewhere. But the moment oil and gas began to flourish, and then when they introduced something called domestic dirty oil politics in Nigeria, and when those who introduced it began to now siphon and make sense against the country's revenue, also adopted yet another formula called international dirty oil politics, taking from source, taking away from onshore, offshore, to destinations around the world, giving nothing to Nigeria. Then they realized that Nigeria, by her growing population, as at that time, is a big market. And one of the next things to do is to deny Nigeria power. What did they do? They also introduced something called transformer dirty oil politics. The transformers, district transformers you see, was what attacked the labor, was what made labor to have numerous widows, numerous orphans. Ministry of Power was used. Your budget was determined. What were they doing? Some specific transformers, district, were brought. And let me tell you what was happening. And labor didn't understand. You went on numerous strikes. You fought, and industries were failing because of lack of power. Alternatives were brought, and the owners were running at loss. What were they doing with transformers? If, for example, in this district, a transformer is brought, what they do is to take at a particular time near to industries, they take foams and copper wires and line it up in the night and put on the transformer and call on the attention of people. Once the copper wire becomes too hot, it burns the foams inside, and transformer is made to trip when there is overload or fire. And when the fire becomes heavy, the smoke must escape. It will bolt and it will trip off. Once it trips off, the industrial workers' labor, the neighborhood, people who are around, will be witnesses to the tripping off of the transformer. But to them, it was called transformer blowing. It was well known to the labor in Nigeria. They knew it as transformer blowing. Once it blows, it stays. The officials from the ministry will take it away only to swap it, but contracts are issued for yet another one. In the meantime, nothing happened to the transformer. But that industry will not work. The labor union will sit doing nothing. The owner is thinking on profit making. He is thinking on the alternative, which is gas, and it costs him more, affecting the economy. That trend continues in the 70s. Industries began to shut down. It was deliberate so that the product from outside Nigeria can have its way into Nigeria, competing with the owners in Nigeria, competing with the local fabrics that we are supposed to utilize. With the continuation of this trend, Nigeria hadn't, as at that time, what is called economic intelligence for Nigeria. We were depending on outside literature, outside information, and those who were destroying us were the same people supplying the same transformers. That continued to early 80s when another type of transformer was introduced. It now come to be in circulation at higher cost with something called cyst. At intermittent breaks, gas and energy were escaping through it. That is to say, you will never have enough energy to run your industries. Till this moment, you have them all littered around Nigeria. The understanding here is, who are the owners of these transformers? Who shipped them in? How many of the labor leaders knew about this game? How did you lose your industries? How come you don't have any to show? How come even when you lost them, people are privatizing them and taking out equipment and selling them at cheaper rates? How come you have so many people very poor within the labor who used to tell you to go on strike? Sit back, reflect, let the leadership think. At what time did you go on strike and for what? For the common good of the last poor person in labor, or for personal interest in having coalition with governments? Military or civil, I don't want to know. Friction between leaders and labor and those in power or the leadership were another thing entirely. All I know was my own assignment was keep Nigeria safe and afloat, and it was. Now, I'm sure before I came, most of the problems bedeviling the labor were known or must have been mentioned, and you know much better than I do. But some of the ones I talked about was the issue of having market for the product of our industry, the textile industry. The textile industry was never protected, even then. Even now, with all the meetings you have done, I don't think there is any government that has the capacity to protect because of something called negotiation or confrontation in international trade. It's a formula that only China succeeded in overcoming that lately. China decided to go on negotiation because they were weak then. Now that they are the world market, they are into confrontation where negotiation cannot hold. The question is, what is this doctrine in Nigeria's trade? What is this doctrine between investors and the government of the day? What has labor done between the issue of understanding, negotiation, and confrontation in international trade with the sole view of protecting what we have? The fact that people urge to come to power is another thing entirely. Knowing what to do with the power to the people timely is all that matters, not wasting time. So here, there is another burden, the burden of competition. They cannot compete. The local industries, the labor are providing labor services, but they can't compete with the international market because they do not have what it takes. In Nigeria, and only in Nigeria, hear this. When you have an institution, it is not normal for you to allow it to run on itself. It will be killed because it was agreed in 1972. When you create a policy to protect people, to service the people, to service this country is not enough. You also must create protective measures to make sure that this policy in itself runs through and succeeds. Otherwise, the two will amount to nothing in the shortest time possible. This has presented itself. We have had numerous governments with lofty ideas, lofty policies. When you, in retrospect, turn to look, it is a sorry sight. And that's why we are where we are. Next is the issue of tax. Tax. If we are to discuss tax, unfortunately, I said I'm not here to discuss politics. But the dirty tax in Nigeria, the regimes, and the ones we have seen lately, is enough a crime that has actually pushed Nigeria to the ditch that will find it difficult to come out from. Lies were told, deceits were implied. There is a game called tax. Actual tax collected, tax remitted, tax submitted, tax known to Nigerians, therefore, but people don't understand. And if I may say, with all sense of humility, from this particular government my brother has spoken about, if we are to discuss tax alone from 2015 to date, it is a heavy burden to listen, not even to chew, to listen alone. But such people are elder statesmen. They have ruined Nigeria, they have ruined the economy, and they still believe they own it. This country should not, under any guise, be seen to be telling lies to people, to cheat the people. If I say I'm going to do B, C, D, even on oath, I will still have to sign before the people. And if within indicators and time given, such things cannot be seen to be done, such government should be seen to be short-lived. There are countries who have attained higher points, and once they begin to fail, they leave, and early elections are called. It is about time we become serious because of who we are as Nigerians. We as Nigerians, with all sense of humility, are yet to know who we are. Knowing what we have had before, and knowing what we knew, and knowing the damage has been done to Nigeria and Nigerians, and then with the elites being fooled every day. Lies are told in the morning, literatures are sent, papers carry it, television and radios echo it. And before you know it, people get brainwashed. You are kept away from facts. That cannot be Nigeria, and that cannot be an environment where a typical Nigerian is qualified, quantified, and valued as an intellect at any level within the international scene. This country is rich. I tell you, part of the pains we have is the fact that rich as Nigeria, but poor among the poorest as Nigeria is physically identified. What is the problem? Deficit of leadership at all levels. Inclusive trade union with all sense of humility. You see, I'm saying this, it might provoke some people. The question is, how much has labor? Who has empowered the labor? How much do you have in your coffers? You have so much to do, but you don't want to offend people. You said you offended people yesterday, or you fought with military government aside. This is democracy. There are 10 million and 10 ways to create funds, wealth for yourselves, wealth for our industries, and get them sustained. And I will tell you what shortly. You see, all the years from 70s till this moment, what is the name of that bank or those banks that are labor-oriented, that are industrial protective, that are ready to give investment with the dreams of the labor in Nigeria, outside Nigeria? In Nigeria, what are the name of those banks who worked and are working with the labor in that dream? None. What are the name of these banks outside Nigeria from the international labor support that are working with the labor and working with the textile industry? What are their names? None. There is a game, and that's all I want you to understand. They want you to work. You have the knowledge, but you don't have the support. How can you work? It's just a dream. And then the labor, in all the crisis labor had, from all the diary of labor activities in Nigeria, it was simply because of contradictory policies of governments upon governments in the past. If government A come with policy A, another government might come and introduce B. And the question is, the labor has never sat down to create a think tank to say, why did government A did this and B is doing this? You should be seen to have a liaison body. You should be seen to now be working with government. You should be seen to have expanded, even if it is Pharaoh that was in power. It's your right. The fact that they are called military government is different, but I tell you there is a game. Labor against government, government against labor is a literature. The way budget is prepared so that they take your resources, the way policies are created and given to those in power to just do it blindly so that they can support them. I give you two examples, and the past speaker, please take note of this. You served in Babangida's government. When there is a military government in place, it is coup that brought them to power. What you may not know is that there are international communities involved. There are Nigerians involved, contractors and civilians involved. There are some notable civil servants involved. When the government is formed, the government is not independent. Concept or policies are sold, and the government is told to carry them out as part of agreements. When labor doesn't like it, you go on strike. But there are questions you didn't ask. There is so much energy you dissipated that you shouldn't have. what you would have done was negotiation rather than confrontation. The labor would have been richer. There was the psychological aspect of it. Because unless there is friction, unless there is gap between a government and the people, those in power will sit comfortably. But the more they create stories and friction is raised, out of nothing, government will not be on her feet. Bodies like labor will not be on their feet. But the more the friction, the better. And it is when you are fighting that you lose your resources. And I'll give you an example. In 1995, the need to look for resources to run African states became an issue. Nigeria was more or less totally bankrupt. The need to run Nigeria became an issue. Salary payment was difficult. Then Libyan government, along with Germany, decided to utilize a satellite from a private satellite company that has shares of government of Germany in it. They discovered uranium in abundance and in high quality, well spread in Niger. Out of curiosity, that leader and other leaders decided to say, scratch part of Nigeria and let's take a look. They were shocked with what they discovered. In Northeast, they discovered a portion. And that portion, in part of Zambeza, leading to Lake Chad. What was deposited there, this is not hearsay. I was in Libya, I was in attendance, along with Nigeria's ambassador, two of us allowed. Then he was later told to go, and I was left alone, along with the Libyan leader and the German company and the owners of the satellite. What was kept there was capable of producing 10 Dubais, 1996. You can quote me in the eyes of this world, Mustapha said so. I'm not into rhetorics. I love this country, I stand for this country. We are already targeted and hated by numerous forces. But if that is what they should do for us rendering service to Nigeria, then definitely they have not started. What we discovered at that material time was a shocker. So I asked questions, as if I didn't understood what they were saying. The Libyan leader then, may so rest in peace, said, and I quote, I mean, what is in this place is enough for you to produce 10 Dubais, 1996. The product of this satellite was brought to Nigerian head of state by me. I brought the 2 metallic boxes. Where is it? Who took it? What happened? Where is the money? Now hold on. What might interest you is what I'm going to say. Nigeria is poor. Your industries are dead. But hear this. 1999, November 1st, I was in prison. They came to meet me in prison. And they asked me numerous questions on the way we were managing some certain things about Nigeria. I wouldn't want to mention. They mentioned some names and commanders they required to do some certain jobs for them. But the question I asked is, was it for Nigeria? At the end of the day, to cut the story short, is to tell you that Boko-Haram was a calculated game. No, I'm begging you, see, I want us to listen with patriotism as Nigerians, because when hopelessness confronts a person who is thirsty, unknown to him, he is standing on an oasis. He is dying of thirsty. He is looking for water and busy praying. But the senses to dig the water and then come back alive is the problem of Nigeria. You are rich, you have it, you are scavenging for it. Most unfortunately. Now, From that time till now is 23 years. People might not tell you this, I'm telling you. I'm ready to be accused, abused, it doesn't matter. I am here. Precious stone has been what they have been taken. Boko-Haram were our sons and daughters given a wrong indoctrination, taking opium from Afghanistan, the harshest in the world, mixing same wood, a certain chemical. When they dip a date in it, and then after 4 hours, whosoever takes it becomes a robot. You are totally robotic. You will respond to orders. You will not feel pain. You will not think. You will not reason. They kill numerous soldiers, many widows in barracks, many orphans littered all over, many refugees scattered around Nigeria. Is labor aware? Keep that aside. It's the social ills created for Nigeria and Nigerians. What you may ask yourself is, how much of this real stone have they taken in 23 years? What has it contributed to Nigeria's growth? Did they build one single textile with the money? Who are the Nigerians collabing with their external factors? When did it start and how many Jews work with them? Can you even quantify the number of officers, soldiers killed, traditional rulers? Can you quantify the friction created between Muslims and Christians? When a bomb is lodged in a church, they will quickly write in the paper the next day, it was Mosque A that did it, and vice versa. They bomb the mosque and blame the church. It's not true. It's a game. So that when you fight yourself, when confusion keeps you aside, they are busy taking what you have. But you sit down. You see, you sit down and look at newspapers and you believe in it. No, there are numerous respected journalists who are highly patriotic, who are highly respected. There are many of them I can fight for with my blood. But they are poor. They are professionals. They don't have money. They have to write what they are told to write. They need job. Who is fighting for them? Keep that aside. See, my brother. Anyway, I will run it out. I'll run out. See, listen to this. Listen to this. Since Boko Haram started, at one point in time you had satellite, but there was a story that your satellite disappeared. Because if the satellite were to be around, it would have given locations to your security. They would have seen and known and identify and arrest numerous participants that are taking your precious stones. And some notable names in Nigeria would have been mentioned. Suddenly there was a story, your satellite disappeared. The most disheartening story that only kindergarten children can accept. I tell you with all sense of humility, we investigated that, not in Nigeria. We went to numerous countries to know the game being played against Nigeria. At our own cost, taking risk to do so. What we have discovered is a shame, monumental shame before man and before our Creator. In the time to come, you will understand, because we'll address Nigeria, and it doesn't matter whose toes we stepped on. We will and educate Nigeria. Now, most of you here have your telephones in your hands. Listen carefully. Labor is poor, agreed. Nigeria is poor, agreed. Most of you have telephones here. Google as I talk. How much is a kilogram of rhodium in international market today? Kaduna, where you have most of your industries then, the best four, the pride of all, were in Kaduna yesterday. But how much rhodium do you have in Kaduna? And how much is it per kilogram? Meaning a container is enough. Anyway, I have 2 minutes to go, but a container, a kilogram, hold on, a kilogram of it in world market today is either 440 something thousand per small kilogram. They are taking it in containers, in hundreds of containers. They find their way to the ports. They go into the international market. That is to say, if Labour can agree with the federal government, take 10 containers, you will be the richest rich, you will have your industries, you will have your market, you will have your dreams attained, your children will have all it takes, you will live well. The question is, why are we not making sense with who we are and what we have? That's what I'm talking about. Since I have a short time, my concern is security of the product, meaning Farmers Association. Second, the movement of the product. We shall, if we have the opportunity tomorrow, increase railways, because what we have created, nobody may believe what I'm telling you. Also Google as I leave. What is the price of a kilogram, I didn't say kilogram, of a rare stone in international market? If I say, you will be shocked, but you have your telephones to check. As at last week is $27,100,000. You have it in abundance. And do you know why it is so? Some of you from Northeast, who is from Borno, the question you may ask, what are NGOs doing in Borno? The war is over, but they are increasing in staying there. They are the only ones going to Boko-Haram. Soldiers, police, traditional rulers, citizens can go to some certain points. But the whites are going there. What are they exchanging? Who gives them the clearance in Nigeria? Which ministry? Is Labour involved? If they are trading in that precious stone, what is wrong with Labour not becoming the middle class so that you can have money and take off? What happened to our industries? Hundreds of millions of billions are living by the day, and we are fools. The essence of all coming to the fore, leave routines. Any person, I said this with all sense of humility, that is not making projections to know the quantum of threats facing Nigeria and does not prepare and doesn't have the shock absorber, the capacity, is not ready to be called names, is not ready to be accused, to be abused, to be used, all for the 2 million plus, 200 million plus Nigerians. He is a non-starter, he is a deceit, he cannot provide leadership. Nigeria is at its own beneath. So all I'm telling you is, where you are thinking cap, think Nigeria, look, ask questions. There are 10 million and things I can tell you, but I'm running out of time. All I'm telling you is, I'm here to share with you the pains of labor. I was in detention in 2002 and 2007. I know what happened when there was an attempt to revamp 4 textile industries. I know the game played. I know how much you suffered to come back to work. I know how many people died when the decision was taken in 2010. And I know when there was an attempt, even by the first speaker who talked about was the remittances given to staff. Hope was risen and hope was dashed. Many died. They have no houses today. They are kept abandoned. It's a different thing entirely to think with the poor, even within the labor itself. We are thinking with the poor. We are poor-oriented programs that we have. But this country must be adjusted. Nigeria must be counted among the first 10 that it is. Northwest, you are from Kwara. You are from a very rich state. At the surface, you might not know. The quantity of rhodium, lithium, and gold in Kwara is enough for Nigeria. Do we know? Are we aware? Why should we be borrowing when you have too much money? How can, what spells, all I ask before I sit down, 2022 budget, if we study it carefully, the meaning of 2022 budget to a country bedeviled with insecurity worse as it is today, with the challenges and the hopes of all Nigerians, from babies to the oldest person in Nigeria, 2022 budget means hopelessness. The next president is to get it implemented. And if the next president doesn't have the formulas we have, Nigeria will be doomed. And I want to be quoted as saying so. The meaning here is that if you do not know how to generate wealth from within, if you don't know how to generate wealth from outside, if you succumb to fear, or if we have leaders who are busy right now going to the same people who have ruined Nigeria, going to sell themselves as their candidates to provide leadership for Nigeria 2023, there is no bigger threat than that. I am not talking to nobody. I'm talking to God Almighty to see our hearts, to see our future, and to guide us. I wish, I'm respecting the 2 minutes given to me, I'm sorry. I wish and pray most sincerely that we will be scientific in what we see, what we hear, what we read, and what we do. And I pray one thing that is missing with Nigerians at all classes, or of all classes of Nigerians, is that unison. Sentiments, lies telling has nothing to do with our progress. The truth, fear of God, love of one another, fictitious stories have no meaning to Nigeria. Unity and love has everything. We have all it takes to be. God bless you. God bless you for giving me the opportunity. God bless Nigeria.
When the union inspiration, the workers blush around, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what falls on earth, union makes us strong, solidarity.